In my town, red lanterns are hung for joy. Festivals, weddings, new beginnings. But some lanterns appear by themselves. No wires, no poles, no hands. They just float. A deep, unsettling crimson glow hanging silently in the night air. And when one of these lanterns lights up behind you on a lonely street, you are already chosen. I grew up in an old Chinese town where the streets are narrow and stone-paved, winding like ancient rivers. After midnight, the world goes silent. All you can hear is the wind whistling through the eaves, and maybe the distant chime of a bell. My grandmother always warned me about the lanterns. Not the festival ones, she'd say, her voice low and serious. The walking lanterns. She told me, if one appears behind you, don't turn around. If it moves, don't follow it. And if it stops, pray it never learned your name. I used to laugh when I was younger, thinking it was just a scary story to keep kids indoors. No one laughs anymore. We all learned the hard way that some stories aren't just stories. They're warnings. The first lantern appeared on a cold winter night. The air was so still you could hear a pin drop. There was no wind, no sound, just a faint red glow slowly drifting down the empty street, painting the cobblestones in a bloody light. A man, Mr. Chun, who owned the little tea shop at the corner, stepped out for a late-night smoke. He saw the lantern floating towards him. At first, he smiled, probably thinking it was a stray decoration from the last festival. He took a step closer, curious. Then he turned his back to it, maybe to call out to someone, or just to dismiss it. The moment his back was turned, the lantern's glow seemed to dim for just a second. And then Mr. Chun was gone. Vanished. There was no scream, no struggle, no sign of a fight. Just empty air where a person used to be. The only thing left was his half-smoked cigarette, still glowing faintly on the ground. After Mr. Chun disappeared, a quiet panic began to spread through the town. People started noticing patterns, piecing together fragments of whispers and sightings. The lanterns only appeared under specific conditions, always after midnight, always on empty streets, and always when someone was completely alone. Fear makes you experiment, and we quickly learned the rules of this terrifying game. If you ran, the lantern followed, moving faster than any human could run, its light stretching your shadow into a monstrous shape ahead of you. If you tried to hide in an alley or a doorway, it would simply wait, hovering patiently just out of sight, its red glow a silent, knowing presence. But the worst rule, the one we learned through hushed, horrified stories, was what happened if you looked directly into its light. If you stared into that crimson core, your shadow stopped matching your body. It would twist and contort, moving on its own, a dark, grotesque mockery of your own form, a final sign that you were no longer entirely you. Weeks passed before they found what was left of Mr. Chun. His body was discovered in a forgotten, overgrown courtyard, far from where he was last seen. He wasn't burned. He wasn't wounded in any way you'd recognize. He was folded. His limbs were bent at impossible angles, his spine curved unnaturally, as if someone, or something, had tried to pack a human being into a much smaller shape, like a piece of origami. But his face was the true horror. It was frozen in a look of pure, agonizing recognition. As if, in the final moment before dying, he understood something terrible, a truth he was never supposed to know. The night they brought his body back to town, more lanterns appeared. Not one this time. 6. They floated in a silent, menacing line above the main street, their red lights washing over our homes, as if announcing that the game had just begun. The first time I saw it, I almost dismissed it. A single red lantern, hovering just outside my third-floor apartment window. It wasn't the Lantern Festival yet, so it was out of place. It hung there in the twilight, swaying gently in a wind that wasn't there. But what really unsettled me was its light. It wasn't the warm, steady glow of a normal lantern. It flickered erratically, like a nervous heartbeat. And when I squinted, trying to make sense of it, I noticed something else. The polished, paper-like surface didn't reflect the streetlights or the darkening sky. Instead, I saw memories. Not reflections, but projections from within the light itself. I saw myself as a child, maybe 5 or 6, hiding behind the curtains in my parents' old house, a secret I thought was only mine. I saw the face of my first crush, a detail so vivid it made my breath catch. These weren't just random images. They were my moments, my secrets, things I had never spoken aloud to anyone. The lantern wasn't just there, it was learning me. A cold dread, thick and suffocating, started to creep up my spine. This wasn't some festive decoration. It was an observer, an archivist of my soul. I watched it for what felt like hours, frozen in place, until the sky was pitch black. It didn't move closer. It didn't move away. It just hung there, waiting. The next night, I was prepared, or so I thought. I taped thick black garbage bags over every window, making sure not a single sliver of light could get in or out. I turned off every lamp, unplugged my phone charger, even the blinking light on my modem. My apartment became a tomb of silence and darkness. I sat in the middle of my living room, my heart hammering against my ribs, listening. For a long while, there was nothing but the sound of my own ragged breathing. I started to think, maybe I'd imagined it. Maybe stress was finally getting to me. And then I heard it. Tap. It was so soft, I almost missed it. A tiny, delicate sound. Tap, tap. Against the glass of my living room window, right where the lantern had been. It wasn't aggressive. It was inquisitive, gentle, a polite little knock, asking to be let in. I squeezed my eyes shut, my hands clamped over my ears. The tapping continued, a patient, rhythmic metronome, counting down to something I couldn't comprehend. Then it stopped. The silence that followed was somehow worse. I held my breath, straining to hear. A floorboard creaked. Not inside my apartment. Outside. In the hallway. My blood ran cold. I crept to my front door, my eye pressed against the peephole, and there it was, the red lantern, floating silently in the middle of the hallway, its flickering glow painting the peeling wallpaper in hellish shades of crimson. It wasn't trying to force the door. It wasn't making a sound. It was just waiting, as if it knew, sooner or later, I would have to come out. The third night was the worst. The lantern was still outside my door. I hadn't slept. I hadn't eaten. I was a prisoner in my own home, besieged by a single, silent light. My phone rang, the sudden noise making me yelp. It was my grandmother. Her voice, usually so steady and warm, was a thin, shaking whisper. "Are you home? Lock your doors. Don't look outside." I tried to ask her what was happening, but she cut me off. "It's the lanterns," she rasped, a sob catching in her throat. "They're not just decorations. They're markers." And then she told me the truth. A story passed down through generations. A secret our town kept buried under festivals and parades. Long ago, something came here. It wasn't a demon, not a ghost or a spirit. It was something older, something that doesn't have a name. It harvests presence. "The lanterns don't kill you, my dear," she whispered, her voice cracking. "They empty you. They take your memories, your laughter, your tears, your regrets, your love, everything that makes you, ... you, what's left. It just collapses. A body that breathes, but a person who is gone." The phone line clicked. My grandmother was gone. I looked at the peephole again. The lantern was still there, its light flickering, and I swear, for a second, I saw my grandmother's face inside it, her eyes wide with a terror I had never seen before. Then the light went out. Complete and sudden darkness in the hallway. My breath hitched. That was worse. The waiting, the watching, that was a kind of psychological torture. But the darkness felt like a decision, a verdict. I understood then, in a moment of terrifying clarity, when the light stops glowing, it means the choice is complete. The harvest is done. My hand, moving on its own, reached for the doorknob. I had to know. I had to see what was left. I turned the lock and slowly, carefully, pulled the door open. The hallway was empty, but the street, the entire street was full of them. Hundreds of red lanterns, hanging in the dead still air, at every window, over every doorway, lining the sidewalks like silent, crimson soldiers. They were all facing my building. They were all facing me. For a moment, there was absolute silence, the silence of a held breath. And then, for the first time, they moved together. As one, they turned their gaze, their internal, flickering lights, directly toward me. A silent, collective judgment. They weren't just marking people anymore. They were choosing their next harvest. And I was standing right in the center of their attention. This morning, the town feels different. It's quieter. Too quiet. It's not a peaceful silence. It's an empty one. The few people I see on the streets walk slower, their movements sluggish and disconnected. They don't make eye contact. Their speech is clipped, devoid of any emotion. It's like watching marionettes with their strings cut. And the shadows. Some of them don't cast shadows anymore. It's the most unnerving thing I've ever seen. A person walks under the morning sun, and the space where their shadow should be is just empty pavement. At night, the town will hang red lanterns for the upcoming festival. They'll look the same to everyone else. Bright, cheerful, celebratory. But I'll know the difference. I'll see the ones that flicker with stolen memories. I'll know which ones are just paper and which ones are cages. Some lanterns celebrate life. Others count what's left of it. If you ever see a red lantern moving by itself, don't follow it. Don't even look at it. Because it's not leading you somewhere. It's measuring how much of you there is to take.